Mr. Winter. I see he was hiding back there. He wasn't hiding?
He's behind the post.
Well, he might not be
Yeah.
hiding being for me. Oh, really? Hang on. Now, as Mr. Winter is handing this out from a full disclosure standpoint, I coached George's granddaughters in hockey for a couple of years, so we had a relationship long before I was supervisor. Is that correct?
Correct.
There's my full disclosure. His granddaughter's pretty good players, too.
Thank God I didn't play now. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is George Winter, as Supervisor said. And I was hoping maybe the
George, I need you to go to the podium or take the
Oh, yeah, okay. I can stand up. There, got me? Okay. We didn't get any, we don't have a Monroe County representative tonight either, and I was hoping that then maybe Ann Taylor, Webster Trail might be here, but not.
I have information from James Pond at Monroe County, and I have letters from Friends of Webster Trails. I have a lot of information here from people who could not make it, and that will come into play, George, when you're done with your presentation.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. At any rate, so I do thank the town board members for showing up this evening for the workshop. I didn't know it was casual, otherwise I would have kept my shorts on. At any rate, what I've got tonight to talk to you about is essentially our safety concerns and access to the Hojak Trail heading south from Lake Road. One minor thing I'd like to bring up, and that's something about Forest Lawn shipbuilders and the folks in our neighborhood. I think a couple of the board members might be aware of the fact that, like 10 years ago, someone had the opportunity, when the railroad actually sold the last lots between Bossburg and Lake Road, someone bought the trail, so to speak. A lady bought it, she was intending to build a house on it, and it turned out, of course, that it was being built over a force main, and then when it didn't work, our attorneys did, all of us who had contributed in the neighborhood, some money, some real money, for David Mayer, and put together our case. We wound up winning that case. Charlie, were you involved in that?
I'm sorry, which case?
Railroad property? Town purchased it?
Yeah, that was, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I was aware of it, sure. Wasn't-
So and the town, the supervisor then invested a lot of money in trees and things to appease the two property owners at the end who decided that, well, they didn't want to hear or see anything, so they put up a lot of trees, and the Parks Department got involved. And so they wound up giving the town an easement to the back 50 feet of their 100-foot wide piece of property, which extends along the trail, which is the railroad property behind their properties. So we fought hard to keep that and keep the use of it, so that's kind of why a lot of us are kind of close to it. We've invested in it. At any rate, I've given you passed out some reduced size copies to you tonight, and essentially what you're looking at is this. The first drawing is this drawing, which is essentially it's not being interpreted as dead man's curve, but it's a blind curve. It's not a safe curve. The beginning point of the problem is right at Fairview Circle, and if you were to put your car there, and I'd invite you to take a ride, go down, try it, stop, go look at it, and the next couple of weeks is a good time because the bridge is still closed. It's been repaired, but it's not open yet. It's easy for you to come down, stop, take a look, and sit right there at Fairview and look down, and you will see, the best you will see is the far side of the road down at the other end, which is 650 feet. Right now, that's where the trail is planned to cross over. And the best opportunity to see anything is from Ray's driveway. It's getting about 200 feet or a little bit better down the road. Then you will actually see something if someone was on the south side of the road coming off or getting on the trail. And I do ask you to go down and take a look and try it. And don't think that because you're going to clear something that it's going to get a whole lot better, because the clearing line is about 8 or 10 feet off the road. All the big trees that are on that right now, none of them are selected to go. None of them have an X through them as they do on Henry Nesbitt's property or on my property when they put a big X over them. You got trees on its way out. So right now they'll take some of the little brush that's there, but that's about it. All right, so that's really our biggest main concern with what's happening. It's a blind curve. And no, it's a fine straight road from the last severe curve, the two curves that are down here, but it's a straight road all the way to Canal Circle. But right after that, it gets dangerous. And I don't think that's really been considered in the not putting a bridge in effect by Monroe County. The next drawing, page 2, is essentially what we're going to call our safer alternatives. This drawing is essentially what the town, or what the Monroe County is planning on in our town. And essentially, it's a pretty steep curve, straight down to the road, and really no flat, really much of a flat area, a place for mom and dad and kids or whatever on bikes to congregate and wait for them, because you know they're always going to be riding ahead of you. Mine always were, and that hasn't changed. At any rate, what I'd like you to take a look at is what we call our safer options alternative. And it's on your drawing, but essentially what we're talking about is that this area in red that is right across the road, that would be a new pedestrian bridge. And then from that, you've got two well-defined 8-foot wide trails is what we're proposing, right on down across the road, and essentially it joins the Monroe County new 5-foot wide path at quite a distance down the road. Again, it's on the far side of the road, so it's easier to be seen because it's on the outside of the curve. And again, the same thing essentially follows the trail that's there now, that's been there for 100 years for access to the railroad bridge. So, and access to the old train station up above. So essentially, that's the real difference and what we'd like to see done with a pedestrian bridge. All right. Now, the other thing is that there's also, and I know the supervisor, you mentioned it in your notes to us, about access to beyond the trail. Now, Monroe County has put in an access, and we've got people sitting in this road who don't want access anymore. And you got somebody sitting in this road who still wants to have access, beyond the trail. That's never really been addressed, and it's not something Forest Lawn's going to get involved in, because they're not really interested in it. It's up to each individual. So, that's been a problem. It's an ongoing problem. My suggestion is put in an earth berm up and call it a day. But there's going to be some of the don't want that earth berm. They want a fence and a gate they can get through. I can't answer that problem, that question, but it's still something that should be addressed. Don't know how you're going to do it, but it needs to be addressed. All right. Now, another option on the drawing that you'll notice is I added in a green path on the south side of the road. Now, the green path would take a fair amount of effort. And by the way, the third drawing you've got shows a tax map, and it shows that there is probably a good 40 or 50 feet back on this side of the road, which you can utilize. Now, it's a steep hill, so they'd have to put in the blocks or something like that to build a trail down into this direction. And this would be, by the way, a really long, easy slope that you could walk up and down with no effort whatsoever. It'd probably be a 4 or 5% grade. So, and then you have a crosswalk way down here, at the same place you have a crosswalk from the pedestrian bridge trail. But that crosswalk way down here meets halfway to almost a distance from the problem of Fairview Circle. So it'd be much quicker, much easier to see someone crossing here than it would be way down here. All right? Now, it's kind of like an equal distance thing. But that's kind of where we are. It would take, they'd have to spend some real money to put in a block wall and excavate and get rid of all the trees that are in the way. But it is property that's available to them. It's all part of the old railroad easement. So it's there. Why can't we utilize it? They may spend as much money doing that as they would put in a pedestrian bridge. Pedestrian bridge is, that I've talked to the gentleman who does about 90% of them here in this country, John York, with York Bridges down in Florida. He said $1,000 to $2,000 a foot. This thing minimum is going to be 120. Maximum would be $150,000 to put in a pedestrian bridge. And that's designed, built, shipped here, installed by them. All right, so that's a complete number round package. That's what the cost would be to make a much safer way to get up and down from this, to replace something that's always been there, as far as most of us can remember, and it's the right thing to do. This is the minimum, but then it's still going to cost money. But it's a whole lot better than coming straight down the hill and both into the highway. I'd like to, the rest of my time, we got a few minutes left. Dave Young wants to come up and talk with you, and Robin.
You didn't leave you much, Dave.
That's okay, I'm
You got
quick.
2 minutes.
I'm quick. If I need this in work.
And I'm gonna tell you why you got 2 minutes, because I'm guessing, is everybody here in support of George, or are there people here for the counter
Yeah, I think.
point of this?
Yes, there are.
You got 2 minutes.
2 minutes, I can do it. So I appreciate everybody's effort in hearing us out and listening to different perspectives. I wanted to offer a little bit more color as to my perspective as a user of the trail. I'm up there 2 to 5 times a week throughout the year. I've got 2 young kids, a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. And we spend time doing all kinds of activities: biking, hiking, running, snowshoeing, skiing. We're up there a lot. And the current plan that George mentioned, I am quite concerned with, first because that's a steep grade right into a very fast road. And second, as George mentioned, trying to control 2 kids on a bike when they're faster than you is very challenging. And then third, I'm up there in the winter less often, but still very often, and I'll run with my kids or just alone. And for the 2 or 3 months out of the year, I've got to wear crampons on my feet just to grab the ice, because it's all packed down from everybody walking and hiking and skiing, even when there's snow on the ground. So a quarter of the year, between 1/6 and a quarter of the year, you're going to have a paved path that goes down to a very fast road that has 1 to 4 inches of ice on it. So I just think that the proposals that George has in front of us are great. Whether people like that or not, I could appreciate the different perspectives, but I think the current one needs a little work. I don't know if I would use this as often as I would if I was concerned about my kids getting whacked by a car. And then the last thing I'll leave you with is I know that this is an asset used by our community. I see many people coming from Lake Road up to the trail on bike or by hiking or by running. I'm not the only guy that's using this access, and I think it would speak a lot to our attitude towards the town as being a place that you want to spend time as opposed to just drive through. So I'll leave you with that, and I appreciate the time I was given.
Robin, they left you -1 minute. So
I was basically.
can't wait to see how you fill that.
I was basically going to say what Dave said, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
The only thing I'd like to reemphasize is there's a safety concern, and it is not just for the Forest Lawn shipbuilders or even Webster. Many people from Penfield and all over, Monroe County come and use, the Hojak Trail, and they loop down to Lake Road and then around, and that's just part of their exercise
Yeah.
workout. So
Yeah.
it's a
You
community.
can microphone.
Well, she said,
I'm back.
you know what, it's fine, because she said she's basically reiterating what George said, and I know that you were here 6-8 weeks ago when George got up for the 5 minutes and basically said he wanted to have a workshop, and we gave you a workshop, and I want to thank you. And
Thank you.
because, now just by a show of hands, I had Dave, I had Robin, I had George, who are here to support their statements. And the gentleman next to Robin is
Peter, Cowdy
Peter.
Corbin.
My husband.
your husband, and then who is the gentleman in the far back?
This is Henry Nesbitt.
Nesbitt.
Henry Nesbitt, okay. Now the rest of the people are here, I'm guessing, with a different perspective on that. And so we don't go too deep into the night. Let me just give a little clarification on some things, because I like to prepare for the topics that are in the town board meetings, whether they're the regular meetings when we dress nice or the workshops. So this is what I did in preparation for this. First of all, a couple months ago, and I've had 4 meetings, I think, with Mr. Winter since I became supervisor. And in all 4 meetings, he's a passionate man, he has said about this pedestrian bridge. And one of the things he brought up was the safety concerns. So we went to the county, because if anybody does not know this, Lake Road is a county road. The side of Lake Road is right-of-ways of the county, all right? Which is interesting, because you're here tonight lobbying the town board, and I don't want to say we're passing the buck, but we don't have jurisdiction over what the county does with their road. And that has come fast and furious to me this year, because as you probably know, this project that the county is doing is encompassing 2 years, 2021, from Pellet down to Forest Lawn, and it's got road closures and all that, and we at the town have had to manage complaints about that and try to do it in a professional way and not throw the county under the bus. Next year, the county is going to turn to the rest of the project, which includes taking down the Hojak Bridge that has been out of commission as a train bridge for I don't even know how long. And that will be what they do in 2022. We went to the county and said, Mr. Winter has some concerns about the safety, and the county, to their credit, got on with us during COVID, a Zoom meeting, and they regraded this. And they meandered this, so you were a loud voice, and you should have been a loud voice, because the county looked more at the 11% grade and whatever, and said, you know what, that's too much, he's got a point, let's regrade it so it meanders down. So the county listened, and what is impressive about that is that happened, geez, I would say probably late 2020 or early 2021, after they had gone to bid and had the contractor that had bid it. So that this is somewhat of a change order, but hopefully, I hope it didn't cost the county too much. But then James Pond from the county, when I said that we have this workshop, and I called James and he said, Tom, I'm going to send you all the paperwork because this has been fully vetted from 2017 to 19. We've got public meetings in 2017. We've got public meetings in 2018. We've got something here from 2019, the final plans. George, I think you went to some of these meetings and you lobbied them on this bridge at the time.
Yeah.
The county, my turn, the county said, yeah, thank you, but we're not doing that, and they came up with their version. So James Pond wasn't able to be here tonight, but he supplied that to the town board so they have another perspective on this. This past Monday at 8 a.m., I drove over and I went and parked, I think on the corner of your property, Mr. Nesbitt, because you're right at the corner of Forest Lawn and Lake. I didn't want to park on Lake because until, you know, it's not a big shoulder, so I parked in front of your house, I walked around. I actually took some pictures of the bridge, and as you might know, as soon as you come across the bridge, there is a series of no trespassing signs. Now, we can debate all day long what you want, but I also came back and I referenced through our DPW department, that is in fact private property. And the people don't want people coming over that bridge onto their private property. And we have some letters from some of those neighbors because we wanted to make sure through the Forest Lawn citizens or organization that they knew that this meeting was happening tonight. And we have letters that the board has that they are like, absolutely, we're ready to have a party when that bridge gets out of there. So they're not in support. Then I went out to the Webster Trails, Friends of Webster Trails, because Friends of Webster Trails obviously manages our town-owned trails like the Hojak Trail. In no uncertain words, and in emails and letters that the town board has, the leadership of Friends of Webster Trail says absolutely not. We are not endorsing a pedestrian bridge, and we are very happy with the plan the county has to bring it down to the shoulder of the road that is across the street from the Forest Lawn development, the lakeside, okay? And as you might know, we're trying to see what we can do down at Sandbar Park that is several hundred yards down the road, but the plan there is when moving the road, we will have on the bay side, which is the same side as where the county is dropping the Hojak Trail. If we can come up with something creative, and what I have said to the town board is we should probably put our energies into matching up the 19-mile Hojak Trail that will come down and end at that shoulder of Lake Road, and if we can somehow match it up with what we're doing at Sandbar Park, that's going to be a phenomenal experience for citizens of the town and visitors. So, oh, and I don't think I said I also got formal from the Forest Lawn Citizens Organization, from their leadership. We got letters that I think I supplied you that said, we are not endorsing this. This is not the Forest Lawn Association's. We are not in favor of a pedestrian bridge. In conclusion, and certainly then if you feel you need to get up there and say something who's against it, by all means do, okay? The county will finish their project in the summer of 2022. It's their road, their right of way, it's their plans. They went through all the public hearing and vettings in 2017 to 19. They did it all by the book. They were kind enough to take Mr. Winter's comments that I passed on to them, advocating for the citizens of Webster, and they came back to the table with several other people, and they made the changes. The changes may not be what you want, George, and the rest of the people for it, but they made the changes to address the safety issues. They're going to finish their road. They're going to take down the bridge. That's their domain. That'll get us through 22. In my opinion, and I haven't had a lot of conversation with the town board, and we're not here to vote on any resolution because it's not our resolution to vote on. It's not our land. And anyway, the earliest we could do anything is 2023. But I would advocate that the town is not interested in the bridge for all the reasons I've just given, and I think I've done my homework and due diligence. The town is more interested in putting their energies into figuring out how to connect the 19-mile Hojak Trail down to the Sandbar Park project that we're breaking ground on next year. And that's all I got to say. And this is not a formal town board meeting. This is not like, hey, we just had a public hearing. Are we ready to vote on this? There's no vote on this. I think there's no vote on this.
There's no vote on it, it's not something to do with construction.
Thank you. Now, for anybody watching at home or whatever says, wow, the supervisor was a real jerk about this.
It was kind of loud.
I wasn't.
I was gonna ask you, no.
You know what it was? It was Karen just said that she couldn't hear Robin, so I figured, okay, well, I better,
You
but I
made
have a
up for it.
microphone, don't
You
I?
made up
You
for
know?
it. Don't worry, I heard you.
Did you? Good. As I said at the beginning, full disclosure, I've known Mr. Winter for a long time. Mr. Winter is a passionate man, and I really respect that about him. He is tenacious beyond belief. I wanted to make sure in no uncertain terms, George, you don't walk out of here tonight with any ambiguity on how we feel about this. And it's not even feelings. It's just the fact pattern of all that I just said. Now, if there is anybody that wants to get up and add to any of that, God bless you, because you did come and you deserve your chance to say whatever.
I'm Otto Kyler.
Otto, you'd have to get up there, because unlike me,
I thought that was you, Otto, but I
They
couldn't tell
can't
from the
hear
accent.
I just want to make one correction in your comment, Supervisor, that in the minutes of our last meeting in August of the Forest Lawn Association, in the minutes it says that Forest Lawn Association has no position on this. They're not advocating or not advocating for it. This is the citizens, the taxpayers, the residents are advocating for themselves, whichever way that is. The board does not take a position.
And I apologize, Otto, because you know what, and I don't, the people from the organization that reached out to me knowing this was going on tonight, their verbiage in their email says something a little different than that, but maybe that basically they are in total alignment with the Friends of Webster Trails, and Friends of Webster Trails, who is in that email thread with some of your leadership, couldn't have been more crystal clear that they are adamantly against it. So I apologize, I didn't have the minutes of the August one, but the fact that your leadership parlayed on to those emails in the last 48 hours saying we are 100% aligned with Friends of Webster Trails, I connected dots that maybe I shouldn't have wrong.
No, I
said, well, then they must be
make
against
that
it.
point.
Okay,
Just wanna make that point.
sure.
Our job is to, we have 2 minutes now? Okay. Our job is to, and as we have for the last couple of years, since the county started their workshops, we've attended them, we've encouraged everyone to go to them. Our job is to disseminate information to the 68 homes in this community and make sure that everyone has their voice. And I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Otto, thank you, and I apologize, I
That's all right.
shouldn't have said that. If your minutes, which unfortunately I wasn't privy to, said something
I can provide you with a copy
not
if you like.
point.
Supervisor,
Yes, George?
the,
And by the way, guys, I'm gonna get you out of here. Promise you'd be out of here. Usually that agenda, you'd be done at 6, right, Bill? You're being very nice about letting this go.
You're carrying on your conversation, it's always good for information.
Go ahead, George.
what it says is that while the board is not going to take a particular position as far as advocating for another pedestrian bridge, we do want to provide you with the information so that you may advocate for what you think will be best. After all, there is strength in numbers.
And that was in August.
Now, that was 2 days ago.
Otto? Oh, thanks, George. Okay, well, that explains it. And I will say this, and nobody's here, none of our department heads are here to say it. I've said one of the things I want to do at the town.
That posted in the way.
Art's here.
Oh, well, Art has heard this then.
Art walked in late.
Art, is it imperative as a team at the town that within our customer service to the community, it's imperative that the board members are saying the same thing as the town, as the department heads, to people on issues,
You're absolutely correct.
right? the person that you just handed this to me, and I'm not trying to, embarrass the Forest Lawn Association, that person's the first time I've seen that person's name. That's not the persons from your organization that I was in the email trail of the Friends of Webster Trails and all that on this. So somebody was different from the one that George gave me, who said power numbers and all that, is who I was getting information from. And I don't know who this person is, and I don't want to hear names, but I know this, the people that I got it from, I specifically wanted to make sure it was one of the ranking officials. And I think the person I got, from what I've told, is the president of the organization. Now, as I know from being involved in organizations, the president is who I'm going to take my information from. If there's 100 other people in that organization, they're all very important, but I want to hear and get something in writing from the president. What I got from the president, or ostensibly who I was told was the president, said that they are in full alignment with the Friends of Webster Trail, who in no uncertain terms said, no, we back the county plan. So this person, I don't know if the association has 1,000 people in it, and this is just one of the members, or if this is one of the officers, I don't know, because George, I've never seen this name before, so not to beat a dead horse, just wanted to make sure I was clear on that. Now, all right, thank you. I'm pretty good at that, aren't I, Bill? So, does anybody else have anything? Jump in, and Billy, I swear to God, because I gotta get out.
First of all, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay.
We can.
First of all, I'm very happy to hear that you want to connect it up with the project that you've got down at the sandbar, because I think that's a big asset for this town.
And your name is?
It's Dave Franz.
Hi, Dave.
So I live in the property that the neighborhood uses to access the Hojak Bridge currently today.
How do you like it?
I was going to get there.
Okay.
So just because I didn't raise my hand on the pedestrian bridge, it doesn't mean that I'm not concerned about how people in the neighborhood access the trail. So I'm not familiar with the current plan now that the county has laid out. You know, I heard about a steep grade going down. I do, however, get to see, because we have given access to the neighborhood to use our driveway and then Ray and Laura's property to access the bridge. There is a lot of traffic that comes from the neighborhood that comes there. So when you say that you're working with the county to do something on the bay side, which would be opposite of the lake side, I do get concerned. I see Dave Young, I see his kids, they come up my driveway, they're ahead of them, right? They're safe now because they access that bridge. But again, without the pedestrian bridge or a better way to access it from that north side of the road, it is a concern to me. So if it takes a pedestrian bridge to get there, I guess I'm with it. What I really don't want
Can I make a
is...
suggestion? I
don't necessarily want access it to come through my property.
Really, and I'm just being honest with you, go through the county. It's all their right.
You know, it's funny, I went to the county meeting, and when they started talking about that property where it intersects, they said, that's a town problem, I'm not worried about it. And that was down there.
Is that interesting? Okay.
It was at the...
I mean, unfortunately, I don't have our DPW here
down
tonight
there
to show the
park.
maps that,
You don't need to.
it's county,
It's all county.
it's all right ways, right?
No, but termination of the trail, they're saying, is our responsibility of the town. And how do we do that safe? At the last meeting that we were at, that I was at. So,
I'm not sure what to, apparently they're pretty happy with going down.
well,
So,
maybe I could make another suggestion, and that would be, and I know it's a county project.
okay. And George, I saw this, by the way, I'm gonna make this very clear. I'm not for that pedestrian bridge, okay? And we're going to end this tonight because the reality is we could go on and on and on and on and on. And the fact of the matter is, there's always going to be some problem unless you have coming off that bridge or accessing that bridge from both sides of the road. And I don't see that happening, okay? Because even if you had the bridge, now you're dumping everybody out because the volume coming from the other side on your side of the road, okay? Nobody's ever shown me something where they could come down, you know, and then you showed the green thing and all that stuff.
Well, that's where I was
It's not gonna
going.
happen.
There's another suggestion.
That's where I was going. I was going with, if you look at Hard Road when it comes down and as it approaches 104, you've got that culvert, and then you've got this 4 or 5 foot bike lane. Why can't that be on the lakeside so you can people from Forest Lawn can come down to the end of the Forest Lawn, go on this designated bike path on the lakeside that's there to a crosswalk, but also make that lane go all the way down to the sandbar. You got a winner.
It is a winner, and I'll tell you what, the best thing to do, because I think people can't visualize it yet. Now, George might be able to on those maps, but the typical human being can't look at that map and really visualize what Lake Road's gonna look like when the county's done. How much wider the shoulders are gonna be than they currently are, okay? So I think, and the reality is this, the ship has sailed, the county is off and running on this road project. We do all agree with that, right? There's no stopping that. There's no stopping or whatever. So they're gonna finish, excuse me, let me just, they're gonna finish the road project next year,
Yeah,
and it's gonna go all the way down to Bay.
right,
So they're gonna expand Lake, make the
No, I got
lanes
that.
bigger and all that.
right,
When that's done,
yeah.
here's what I would suggest. Why don't we take a look at what it looks like when it's done, not a map and a grade, and a conceptualization of, have they thought about, will it be icy coming down that thing? All of that stuff. Is it got, do they have the crosswalk? What does the sight lines look like? Because a lot of what they're doing is taking the turns out and straightening them out. It's a well thought out thing at the county. I want to make sure that's known, that they went through the process. Let's have them finish the job, because it is their road, it is their right of ways, I think, right? Why don't we all take a look what it looks like in the fall of 2022, and then if there still is a passionate group of people that want this bridge, come on back. And at that time, we'll put maps up and make sure that this, George, county's gonna have to be on board for this, and I think you know that. County's not on board for it.
They're next.
Have fun with it. Hey, listen, I wanna thank everybody for coming, all right? And, have a great night.
Me too.
Good,
And that concludes our meeting tonight.
So long.